Have you ever taken a moment to really think about what self-love actually means? I mean the real meaning of it. The kind that shapes the way you speak to yourself, the way you treat yourself, and the way you carry yourself when no one else is around. Not the polished version you see on social media, not the cute quote. I mean the kind that shows up in the quiet moments when you fail, when you feel insecure, when you look in the mirror, and when life doesn't go the way you hoped. And what about the true importance of self-love? Have you ever really thought about that? Because a lot of people treat it like something optional or secondary, when in reality, it touches everything. It affects your choices, your relationships, your confidence, your boundaries, your peace. What about this idea that in order to be loved by anyone, you first need to truly love yourself? Have you ever paused and really reflected on that? Not because you need to become perfect before you deserve love. Not because you have to have it all together before anyone can care about you. But because when there is no self-acceptance, it becomes so easy to doubt love when it comes. It becomes so easy to chase validation when it disappears and settle for less than you deserve just to avoid being alone. If you've never really thought about these questions before, you're not alone. Most people haven't. Most people were never taught what self-love actually looks like in real life. They were taught how to achieve, how to perform, how to be liked, how to be chosen, how to make other people proud, but not really how to love themselves. So today, we're going to talk about why learning how to love yourself and how to build self-worth is not just about feeling better. It's about changing the foundation of your whole life. It's about creating a healthier relationship with yourself so that your personal development no longer comes from fear, shame, or the desperate need to prove that you are enough. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. A lot of people talk about self-love as if it begins after you become more confident, more attractive, more healed, more successful. But that's backwards. The real shift happens when you stop treating love for yourself like a reward and start seeing it as the thing that helps you survive, rebuild, grow, and finally breathe a little easier inside your own life. And maybe that's where you are right now. Maybe you don't hate yourself exactly, but you're tired. Tired of the self-criticism, the comparison, the pressure, and the quiet feeling that other people seem to have something you missed. So let's make this simple and honest. Self-acceptance does not begin when you finally admire everything about yourself. It begins when you stop building your identity around everything that seems wrong with you and start learning how to stay on your own side, little by little, in a deeper and steadier way. And once you understand why self-love feels so hard in the first place, you may realize something powerful. The problem was never that you were too broken to love. It was that no one ever really taught you how. You weren't born believing you were hard to love. Somewhere along the way, you learned it. A lot of people grow up praised for achievement, obedience, or being easy. If that happened to you, it might explain why, instead of building self-love and self-acceptance, you got really good at judging yourself, fixing yourself, and wondering why personal growth still feels so heavy. And here's the tricky part. When your worth gets tied to performance, rest starts to feel guilty and mistakes feel way bigger than they are. You may hit a goal, get the praise, do everything right, and still feel something's off, because deep down, you were taught to earn value, not recognize it. That's why learning how to build self-worth isn't just about confidence. It's about unlearning the quiet belief that you must become more before you deserve your own kindness. I've seen this in people who look strong on the outside but crumble inside over one small failure. And honestly, that's more common than most admit. It's like carrying a cup with a tiny crack. No matter how much validation you pour in, it never seems to stay, which is why self-love can feel so frustrating at first. And once you see that, a deeper question starts to open up. When did that inner doubt begin? And who taught you to look at yourself that way? Self-doubt usually doesn't show up out of nowhere. It often starts in quiet moments when you felt unseen, criticized, rejected, or somehow less than. Maybe it was a comment about your body, your personality, your grades, or the way you handled things. And without noticing, you began to question your value. That's how the road away from self-acceptance can begin. Not with one dramatic event, but with small wounds that slowly shape how you see yourself. Sometimes insecurity begins when you keep hearing what needs to change, but rarely hear what is already good in you. A child who is constantly compared may grow into an adult who keeps comparing. A teenager who feels rejected may start believing love must be earned. And then even personal development can become a trap, because instead of growth coming from self-love, it comes from the fear of not being enough. You can still see this pattern today in simple things: over-explaining yourself, shrinking in a room, obsessing over one flaw, or replaying awkward moments at 2 a.m. Classic brain behavior, unfortunately. That's why learning how to love yourself and how to build self-worth matters so much. You're not just changing habits, you're healing an old identity. And once you notice where insecurity was planted, the next step is seeing the daily habits that keep watering it without you even realizing it. A lot of what hurts your confidence doesn't happen in big moments. It happens in the tiny habits you repeat every day without questioning them. Negative self-talk, overthinking, perfectionism, and comparison can quietly train your mind to look for what's wrong before it ever notices what's good. And that's the sneaky part. You can be deeply committed to yourself and your growth and still be reinforcing the exact mindset that blocks self-love. Think about how often you dismiss your progress with a quick, "yeah, but," or how you talk to yourself after making one mistake. You could finish 10 things well, but your mind zooms in on the one awkward comment, the one flaw in the mirror, the one thing still missing. Pretty rude, honestly. That habit slowly pulls you away from self-acceptance, because instead of seeing yourself clearly, you only see yourself critically. If you want to start changing that, notice one pattern this week. Maybe comparing yourself on social media, rewriting the same message 5 times, or calling yourself lazy when you're actually overwhelmed. Try replacing one harsh thought with one honest thought, like "I'm learning," "I'm tired, not worthless," or "I don't need to be perfect to be valuable." That's part of how to build self-worth. Because once you see the habits that damage you, you're finally ready to understand what how to love yourself really looks like in real life. A lot of people misunderstand self-love because they think it means thinking you're amazing all the time or pretending nothing hurts you. But that's not it at all. Real self-acceptance means telling the truth with kindness. Yes, you have flaws. Yes, you're still growing. And yes, you are still worthy. In other words, learning how to love yourself is about becoming honest without being cruel. Self-love is the way you speak to yourself when you fail, the way you treat your body when you feel insecure, and the way you stay on your own side in hard seasons. It looks like saying, "I need rest," and actually allowing yourself to take it, or admitting, "I was wrong," without turning one mistake into a full identity crisis. Our brain does love drama sometimes. I like to think of it this way. Self-love is not standing in front of the mirror and forcing yourself to say a compliment you don't truly believe. No. It's more like seeing yourself clearly and recognizing deep down that even though you have flaws, you also have strengths, qualities, and value. It's remembering that every single day, you are trying to become a better person with the awareness you have, the tools you have, and the strength you have in that moment. And the truth is, every single day you are making progress, even when you cannot fully see it yet. Maybe it's in the way you pause before reacting, the way you keep going when things feel heavy, or the way you keep trying to understand yourself a little more honestly. That kind of growth does not always look huge, but it is still real, and it still matters. So how do you feel when you think about yourself that way? Do you feel a little softer, a little more compassionate, a little more human, like someone who is simply doing the best they can each day? Because self-love begins right there, not in perfection, but in learning to look at yourself with more truth, more grace, more kindness, more love. And once that clicks, the next question becomes very practical. What can you actually do each day to make that way of living real? If you want more self-love in your life, you don't need a perfect morning routine, a candle collection, or a full personality transformation by next Tuesday. You need small, repeatable actions that teach your mind and body, little by little, that you matter and that your effort counts. That's really how to build self-worth. Not through one big breakthrough, but through ordinary moments of self-acceptance practiced consistently. Start simple. Write down 3 things you did well at the end of the day, even if they seem small, like answering an email, taking a walk, or not giving up when your mood dropped. Speak to yourself more gently on purpose. Replace "I always ruin everything" with "I'm still learning," and keep one promise to yourself each day, even a tiny one. That might mean drinking more water, going to bed earlier. These daily choices may look small, but they change the relationship you have with yourself in a very real way. Every time you notice a strength, celebrate a small win, or stop abandoning yourself, you learn how to love yourself in action. And once you begin doing that, something interesting happens. You become a little less hungry for approval from everyone else. A lot of people don't just want to be liked, they need to be liked, chosen, praised, or approved of in order to feel okay. And when your worth depends on other people's reactions, your peace becomes fragile, because one cold reply or one rejection can shake your whole sense of self. That's why self-love, self-acceptance, and real personal growth get so tangled up with fear when you haven't yet learned to stand on your own side. You see it in everyday life more than you think, checking your phone for a message, replaying a conversation, changing yourself to seem more impressive, or feeling crushed when someone overlooks you. I've watched people accomplish incredible things and still feel empty because they were not really building a life they respected. They were building a performance they hoped would be applauded. But how to love yourself begins to change when you realize that approval can feel good without becoming the thing that defines you. A practical place to start is asking yourself, would I still choose this if nobody praised me for it? Or, do I actually want this, or do I want the validation attached to it? That question can be uncomfortable, sure, but it helps you build self-worth from the inside instead of borrowing it from the room around you. And once you stop chasing permission quite so hard, you're finally ready for the most important part: how to start today, exactly as you are. You do not need to wake up tomorrow feeling fully confident, healed, and glowing like someone in a suspiciously expensive wellness ad. You just need one honest step, taken from where you are, not from where you think you should be by now. That is how self-love begins in real life, not as a feeling you wait for, but as a choice that slowly teaches you how to love yourself. Start with something small enough that your mind cannot turn it into a grand performance. Write one kind sentence to yourself. Take one action you've been avoiding. Unfollow one account that feeds comparison. Or spend 5 quiet minutes noticing what you feel instead of outrunning it. That is already self-acceptance, and it is already part of how to build self-worth through steady, grounded personal development. The truth is, your life can start changing before your self-image fully catches up, and that surprises a lot of people. Confidence often comes after the action, not before it, which means you do not need more permission. You need more practice staying on your own side. And once you begin, even imperfectly, you may realize this whole journey was never about becoming someone else, but finally learning how to come home to yourself. Now, the real question is not whether this message made sense to you. The real question is, what are you going to do with it? Because your life does not change when you finally understand self-love in theory. It changes when you start practicing self-acceptance in the small moments where you would normally abandon yourself. So don't leave this as another video that felt deep for 10 minutes and then got lost in the noise of your day. Take one thing you learned here and apply it today. Speak to yourself differently. Stop chasing one person's approval. Keep one promise to yourself, or finally notice the ways you've been measuring your worth by the wrong standards. That is how personal development becomes real, and that is how you begin learning how to love yourself and how to build self-worth in a way that actually lasts. And if this stirred something in you, I want to ask you two honest questions. What is one way you've been too hard on yourself lately? And what is one small change you know you need to make if you truly want to start treating yourself with more love and respect? Be honest with yourself, because staying the same has a cost too. There comes a point when continuing to doubt yourself, shrink yourself, and wait for permission becomes more painful than finally choosing change. And maybe this is your moment to stop calling self-betrayal normal and start building a life rooted in self-love, truth, and real self-acceptance. If this video helped you, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you can keep learning more about personal development, how to love yourself, and how to build self-worth in a deeper, healthier way. And share this video with a friend who may need to hear this right now, because sometimes one message lands at exactly the right moment and opens a door someone thought was locked. Thank you so much for watching, and I truly hope this was the beginning of something important for you.